Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's see. Getting, and then share. Oh, there we go. Okay, and you guys can see the presentation, correct?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm not used to Teams. I'm usually a Zoom person. I just wanted to make sure.
No worries.
Okay, so I am here. My name is Catherine Honer. I am the Administrative Supervisor of Family Services. I am from the Ocean County Health Department, and my job is basically to oversee early intervention and special child health services. So, early intervention, we service a population of children identified with developmental delays or disabilities from ages 0 to 3. And then, just a quick blurb, special child health services, we work with children ages 0 to 21 who have been registered with the New Jersey Birth Defects Registry or who have a diagnosis of a developmental delay or disability as well. Special Child Health Services provides free resources and referrals to children and families throughout the state of New Jersey. We work with the families who specifically live in Ocean County. But today I am here to talk about early intervention. And Caitlin, typically you guys work with children 3 to 21?
Yes, we work with youth. It's technically supposed to be 5 to 21,
Okay.
but now we're seeing earlier and earlier. So we just say at this point up to 21 now.
Up to 21. Okay. So this information may help with siblings in the family that you see. It may not be the direct client that you're open with, but it's just information to kind of be shared. And, being in the helping field, we are always looking for information. So I'm just going to kind of cover basically what is early intervention, go through the early intervention process, talk about how we transition families from early intervention to the next steps, and what to do if someone expresses a concern or if you're concerned about a child who may be in need of early intervention services. So basically, early intervention is a system of supports and services for families. We work, like I said, with children from birth to age 3 who have been identified with developmental delay or disability. They are, we do testing to determine eligibility. So that is one way children are deemed eligible for our services. Another way is if there is a diagnosis. We have 10 presumptive diagnoses that will make a child eligible for early intervention, such as Down syndrome, autism spectrum disorder, hearing impairment, vision impairment. I should probably know all 10 off the top of my head, but some of them, spina bifida, cerebral palsy, fetal alcohol syndrome. I'm sorry, I don't know all 10 off the top of my head, but there are 10. And so those will automatically qualify a child for early intervention. And then another way to qualify is that if they're at high risk for developmental delay. So for example, if a child is exposed to substances while the mother is pregnant, and because we don't know what the extent of the exposure is, things like that, we always strongly encourage the caregiver at the time, whether it is the parent or resource parent, to get doctor's documentation saying that this child was substance exposed in utero, so that we can keep them in the system to the age of 3, because we do know that children who are substance exposed will possibly show delays early on. And then typically around like 18, 24 months, they kind of level out and will be typical with their peers. But then around like the 28th month, 30 months old, they have a tendency to dip off again. So we like to kind of keep our hands on them and keep our eyes on them to make sure we don't miss anything. But that kind of just talks about eligibility a little bit. Our goal is to work with the family's concerns and priorities. So we try not to focus on where the delays are specifically, but we want to focus on how those delays are impacting the family's routines and how we can improve the family's routines in general. So our mission is to enhance the capacity of families to meet the developmental and health related needs of the children birth to age 3 who have developmental delays and to support those children and their families. We work with all racial, cultural, and socioeconomic backgrounds. There is no financial requirements for early intervention. Your child just has to have that developmental delay to qualify. So these are the steps through early intervention. These are, I would say, the basic steps. So a child will come in through referral, and then every referral will receive an evaluation. From that evaluation, like I said, they will determine if the child is eligible or not eligible. At that point, if the child is not eligible, the parents will receive a copy of that developmental assessment. And a lot of the times, depending on what that assessment results are, sometimes the parents will be directed to say, listen, outpatient may be more appropriate because they don't meet the qualifications for early intervention. Here's some strategies you can try. They're not meeting eligibility, but if something is still concerning in a couple of months, please call us back. We'll come back out and evaluate again. And the case is closed at that point. If the child is eligible, then what happens, the children and the families will actually be referred to my unit, which is the service coordination unit. And we are essentially the case managers for the family. From then, we will move forward to what we call our family information meeting. And I'm sure as case managers, we are all aware of the alphabet soup of acronyms that go with any organization. So we complete our FIM, where we complete our family directed assessment, our FDA. And this is what we use to identify the family's concerns, priorities, and resources so that we can help develop what we call our IFSP, which is our Individualized Family Service Plan. So we take our Individualized Family Service Plan with the evaluation team, and we basically write the plan of what we want to see happen for the next 6 months. So we combine the information that was gathered from the evaluation plus the family's routines that they want to work on and improve on. And that's what develops the plan. Then we go off of recommendations from that plan, and then we implement the plan. So this is where we will see the recommendations from, whether it's going to be speech 1 time a week or PT twice a month, things like that. We reevaluate these plans at least every 6 months, but per the family's rights, they can request a meeting at any time. Every year, the child is reevaluated to determine eligibility for the program. So we kind of flip-flop back and forth between implementation and developing the plan, and then implementation, developing the plan, because we want to make sure we're staying up to date and that if goals or our outcomes need to be rewritten, services need to be changed, that we are staying on top of it and writing them, as current as possible, which again, I'm sure everyone here is familiar with as being case managers. This is information regarding the referral. This is our referral line. So what happens is at this point, anyone can make a referral. Basically, you just call, you leave a message, and then somebody from the referral line will call you back. The referral process usually takes about 45 minutes, maybe a half hour, depending on what needs to be discussed. They'll go through all areas of development, not just what the concern is. So if a parent is calling for concerns of gross motor delays, my child is not my child is not walking, they're not crawling, they will still ask about all areas of development because we still want to get that full picture. When the evaluators go out to the home, they're not just evaluating that area of concern. They are looking at the full picture because, as we know, as professionals in this field, we can't pick apart the child and just look at, okay, well, we're just going to work on your gross motor. But we know gross motor is related to fine motor, and motor is related to communication, and that's related to our cognitive, and everything's all intertwined like a giant ball of rubber bands. So everything's related. Our services are provided excuse me, our services are provided via telehealth, in person, and during COVID, we did offer center-based services. Typically, we shy away from center-based services, but during COVID, we did offer them just for safety protocol. Um, we really encourage in-person and telehealth services because our goal is to provide services in the natural environment, and I'll go into more about that later, just because of how children learn. Um, Evaluations are conducted typically in person at the child's home. Um, Parent or guardian has to be present because a lot of the information that is obtained is by parent report, but then there's also a good chunk of information that needs to be acquired by actually the child, being able to complete a certain task in a certain number of attempts and things like that. Um, but the parent will actually know by the end of that assessment if their child qualifies or not. Excuse me. So these are the areas of development that we look at. So we look at adaptive, fine motor, gross motor, social and emotional, communication, and cognitive. And these are the same areas of development that we look at from at 0 months to 35 months, 36 months. So self-help skills, social emotional, is the baby cooing? Do they make eye contact? Do they turn their head when, the parent calls their name from a different spot in the room? Are they able to understand language? Are they babbling? Are they able to roll from tummy to back and back to tummy? Are they bringing their hands to midline? Are they grasping toys? Are they reaching for toys? Are they able to follow simple directions? And these are all different things that are all different age appropriate. Right now, we are using the Battelle Developmental Inventory. And this is a standardized test that is used, that they're able to use up until, I believe, the age of 8. So it is a test that is used consistently throughout this age level. So it's something that grows with the child, so we can keep the consistency of using the same test. Like I said, once the child is deemed eligible, they will come to my unit with the ongoing service coordinators. And as our responsibility as the ongoing service coordinators, it is our job to manage, maintain, and coordinate, for lack of a better word, the case. So we want to make sure that everyone is doing their part. We want to make sure that the parents are involved in sessions, or the caretakers, whether the sessions are happening at home or the child care center. We want to make sure that the family is getting the services they're supposed to be getting that is written in their plan. So if for some reason the therapist, let's say, goes out on maternity leave, we want to make sure that that agency is able to replace that service, that provider. And if they aren't able to, then we want to make sure that we are able to find another provider for that family. We want to make sure that we are hitting all the timelines for this family. So if they are, their meetings due, we want to make sure that we're updating the IFSP within within that timely manner. If the family's in need of any other services, we're also linking that family to those services as well. So just because our focus is on that child development and developing and improving those routines of that family, we still want to encourage that family. Listen, we're also here. Are you in need of anything else? Do you need to be linked to WIC? Do you need to be linked with SNAP? Do you need information about utility programs to help pay for utilities? Do you need information about childcare for your older children? Anything about that. And then as the child is older, we talk about transitioning out of early intervention. And that transition plan can be either going on to the preschool program when they turn 3 in their local school district. We talk about Head Start, or it could be like, hey, listen, your child's making great progress. They're turning 18 months, but their annual IFSP is coming up. And, let's talk about the fact that they may not be eligible anymore. What do we want to do next? And let's plan for that as well, too. So these are all the things that the IFSP itself addresses. And these are things that you may be familiar with as case managers. It is a written plan. It knows so that everyone is on the same page. We talk about the family's concerns, priorities, resources, as I said. it tells us, when that plan was written, what the child was doing at that time, and where we would like to see them go within 6 months, so that everyone knows what everyone else is supposed to be doing. Going back to natural environment, children learn best in their natural environment. So this is where they spend their time every single day. And this is why early intervention focuses on routines. So what do you do during mealtime? What do you do during bath time? What does playtime look like for your family? Where does the child spend their day? Are they at daycare? Do they go to a play group? Do you go to the library? Do you go to the beach? Do they have trouble going food shopping? We can have a session with you at Target, at ShopRite, wherever it may be. So these are all things that are part of the child's routine that early intervention can participate in as well. Our goal is to really provide the strategies with the family and have the family members be the agent of change. Our job is not to, excuse me, our job is not to come in and do for the family. Our job is to do with the family. So this really kind of demonstrates how the practitioner would come in, engage the family, teach the family, and then and then the idea is that the family is going to carry over those strategies to the child throughout their regular routines, in between sessions. And that's really where the magic happens, is in between sessions. Again, these are some of the services that are most common in early intervention: service coordination, which is us, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, social work, family training, and something that's unique to early intervention is developmental intervention. And this is common, and this is where we would have a special education teacher or a child developmental specialist assigned to work with the family. And they really kind of tie everything together. They really kind of they're kind of like the jack of all trades, where they know a little bit about everything and really pull all the services together. So DI is really awesome, I think, in my personal opinion. And they really know how to pull everything together. Again, we pull, like I was saying before, we review our IFSPs every 6 months. So that would be our periodic review. And then at our annual review, like I said before, we are reestablishing eligibility and retesting with the BDI, and we're updating our family concerns. And again, we're always updating our IFSPs at that time. When we get to transition, there's a bunch of different ways that we can transition. So when a child turns 3, we want to talk about what we're going to do after 3 years old. So we can talk about the special needs preschool program in their local school district. We talk about Head Start. We talk about community-based programs. Talk about outpatient therapy if that's appropriate as well. Other ways to transition, like I said before, when the child has made progress and they're no longer in need of our services. Families will move out of state. So we will also prep the family and help them transition to another state. Or sometimes the parents just say, hey, listen, you know what? I'm just not concerned anymore. He may not be up to par or up to where where the practitioner, thinks he should be, but I'm not concerned as the parent. So we're good. And I'm just, this might not be the program for us anymore. It's not working for us. And the parent can just withdraw. Our program is 100% voluntary for all programs, even when working with DCPMP. It is 100% voluntary. So we do need parental consent at all times to engage in services. So that's that. And then, like I said, at any point, you can call early intervention. We have a toll-free number. We also do have, there are online referral forms, and the link is we have 4 different regional websites, and I'll provide the link to Caitlin as well if anyone is in need to complete like the online regional online form. It's just like a contact referral where you would just go online, fill in the contact information for a family, and then they would be able to, and that would prompt the return phone call to complete the referral. And then this last page is just kind of like early childhood development information, early intervention. it's just, you know, really effective, especially for children who've been exposed to any type of adverse events, because 90% of the brain development happens before the age of 5. So early intervention, we want to get in there as much as we can. And then these are just links that go to developmental milestones checklists. And then the CDC has this really awesome app that parents can download, and they can actually set up different profiles for all of their kids, and they can check off their milestones, and it'll actually give the parents a red flag if anything needs to kind of like be brought up to their pediatrician. And it'll kind of help prompt that discussion with the pediatrician. And I believe they come in English and in Spanish as well. So that is everything. So I'm going to stop sharing, I think, and then we can do some questions if I can figure out how to stop sharing. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Oh, there we go.
Well, thank you so much. It was so informational and beneficial. And I think we receive a lot of referrals for youth that have had early intervention services in the past. And we may not, fully understand what that would have entailed before this. I had a question, and then we could go to anyone else that had questions. I just wanted to know if we received a referral for youth and maybe they had recently transitioned out of early intervention services, and we received our intake forms, signed off on consents that we were able to speak with early intervention. Is that something that we could do just for collaboration purposes?
Absolutely. If we have a release to share information signed by the parent, we can absolutely share information. And as long as that release states what we can share, if we can share, because we always offer families exit testing as well. So they will also be offered an exit BDI. So because we always like to collect that data, not just for our federal guidelines and state requirements, but just to also really give the family that kind of like before and after picture. Like, hey, listen, when you came in, these were your concerns. This is what the scores look like. We provided this many months or years of intervention. Now these are where his scores are compared to his peers. Here's kind of like your before and after picture to kind of give parents that information and that data. So if parents, are okay with us sharing any written reports, we can absolutely share that. If they just want like us to share verbal information, we can share that. So as long as it's specified, we can absolutely share that information. If they want us to share the last IFSP, we can share that as well too. We can absolutely share information as long as we have that signed consent, 100%.
Great. Anybody else? Anyone have a question for Catherine?
I have a question.
Okay, well,
I don't know if can CMO and early intervention, I don't know if you said this, work together. I mean, is that typical or not really? Because it seems kind of like a duplicate service.
I believe I haven't seen it just because of the ages, because I think it's pretty rare for CMO to provide the services for that. I haven't seen CMO provide for like, a 3-month-old or things like that.
We're anticipating go because DCF is changing things to the
Okay.
0 to 5 early. So that's part of the reason why we wanted to hear about early intervention. And I don't know that they've hashed out like if that is something like if we can both do. And then I'm not sure, all the services you're mentioning, like we have in-home therapy, like mental health therapy services, ABA. Do you guys also have that, or is that how we could like complement each other?
So I think that would actually be how we complement each other. Okay. Early intervention, because ABA is more of a medical approach where it goes through insurance and things like that. We really work on developmental skills. So we want to hit those developmental milestones. Whereas ABA specifically is working on, because there's a diagnosis, you're providing this specific strategy. Many of our practitioners are will have a BCBA or will have a lot of skills in ABA, but we won't provide ABA specifically.
Okay.
We don't provide any type of mental health counseling or interventions in that way. Those are some of the things like we were talking about that we would refer families out to, where we would say like, oh, here's information about community-based resources regarding mental health counseling, because that's not something that we can provide. So like we would maybe put social work in the home, but that social worker is not going to provide that mental health intervention for the parent or for the
And
family.
yeah, so it probably would be good that we could complement each other in that way.
Mhm.
So we also know like outpatient waits are really low. You know, our main Medicaid, most of our families have 95 at least percent of the over 1,000 families we serve have Medicaid.
Yes.
And those waits are long, whether it's for ABA through their managed care organization, Medicaid, or if it's outpatient. I know like Preferred right now, or I think it's Bright Harbor has like 200 kids on the waiting list.
Oh, I know.
So just think about us in that regard, you know, and you have our contact so we can always, you know, work, you know, I'm sure we could work together. I haven't heard otherwise, and we don't have to tell anyone we're doing that. So we could ask for
Listen,
forgiveness.
ask for
down the road.
forgiveness, not permission.
Well, and you guys are
Yes.
through Department of Education, right? Or we're
We
through
are actually-
Department of
so-
Children and Families.
Federally, we're Department of Education. State-wise, we're Department of Health.
Okay.
So we actually haven't been given any direction about, so this is actually the first I'm hearing that CMO is opening up to that 0 to 5. So this
Yeah.
is
And
actually
mobile
more
response.
exciting.
So you're going to hear probably from, you know, you're going to see probably more overlap going
Which
forward.
honestly, and with these waiting lists, I think it's fantastic news because I mean, even in early intervention, we have waiting lists for providers at this time. Like we have a shortage of physical therapists right now, and you know, we're trying, like we do what we can for families and try to give them alternate options to like let's get somebody in there to work with you and let's try to do something. Because we do want to help the families as best as we can, and we do offer them compensatory services. So there are many times where families are with us after 3, sometimes even until the child is 4, because of the time that they've waited to start services. So we do work with the families as best as we can to provide them with those options. So this is exciting news to me as well too, to have other options for families to help refer them to other community-based programs to help them gather services and give them the supports they need. So this is good news as well.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have more collaboration opportunities in the future. And it's always good just to be aware of like what's in the community now.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So if you want to send me over that link and maybe the presentation, I think that would be helpful
Absolutely.
just so I could send it out to the other care managers. And I thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And if anyone has any information, Caitlin has my contact, or has any questions, Caitlin has my contact information. Always feel free to reach out if you have any specific questions about a specific family, specific cases, or just general questions as well too. All right.
Great.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
everybody.
so
It was great
much.
meeting you. Bye.